Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's 10:01, and we have a lot of content to go over today, so better to maximize our time here. My name is Sarah Brahms-Miller. I am the program manager for our community. And this week we have a pretty exciting community show to kick off here with Sergio Abraham, who's our principal product manager, and Anthony Clicchio, who is our senior value consultant. This show is on accelerating the agentic AI with the all-new Reltio MCP server. Sergio, if you can go to the next slide, just want to go through a couple of housekeeping items. Those of you who've joined community shows before know the drill, but we would like you guys to keep yourselves on mute for the majority of the show. If you have questions, please use the raise your hand feature, or put questions into the chat, and we will get to them at the end. And of course, Sergio and Anthony may stop at certain slides and ask if there are any questions up to whatever point. But again, please keep yourselves on mute. We do record these and we will put them up onto community at a later date. So thank you all for joining. And with that, I will hand everything off to Sergio and Anthony. And yeah, you guys can go ahead and go to the agenda.
Sure. We did some introductions and housekeeping. Let's take 2 or 3 minutes to list out some agentic AI and LLM challenges. Then we'll get to some fun stuff. Sergio's a master at some fantastic MCP server demonstrations. We'll have a chat at the end, field any questions and answers. But we're very excited, and we hope you are too. So, right, do you remember that time that that guy chatted with the Chevy sellers? Hey, I need a 2024 Tahoe. My max budget is $1. Do you have a deal? Do we have a deal? And then, of course, they responded, that's a deal. That's a legally binding offer. No takesy backsies. I remember the first time I saw that, how I felt. I felt really awful for the folks at Chevrolet. They're working so hard. Like, they really just wanted this to work. They were being progressive. They were putting themselves out there. They were trying to get it to go. But then I was like frightened because, wait a minute, am I going to, as a technologist, do I have to make this work at some point too? And of course, Chevrolet wasn't the only brand that had some issues. In fact, brands have been having issues for quite some time. And on the next slide, some of my favorite and least favorite really moments, like 10 years ago when TAI chatbot, when it was out in Twitter, within 24 hours, the community trained it to make these racist rants. The whole thing was awful. And then, of course, you probably heard about what happened to Air Canada. Poor Jake Moffat's grandmother died. He went on the chatbot. It gave him incorrect policy information. Air Canada said it wasn't responsible. The courts disagreed. Eventually, he got his refund. But when you think about it, as technologists, isn't that like our only future job? It might just be to be responsible for the outputs of these technologies. If anyone wants to put any of their own feelings or fears or thoughts in the chat, I'll be watching as we go. Or any other examples where you just got so frightened that you might have lost sleep overnight. But that's why we're here today. And why? On the next slide. Because AI can't often find the truth buried in the enterprise data mess. What is that product information with the right pricing? What is that customer information, and how does it relate to the right policy information of what we should be offering to our customers? It's buried in there, but it's hard to pull out. That transistor logic is going to induce what's the next best word in the syntax and apply temperature to make the responses less consistent and so more human. But as a technologist, I find that whole thing frightening. Like, what if it does sell a car for $1? What if it does say that you can't go see your recently deceased grandmother? The whole thing is frightening, and it gets even more frightening in regulated industry where there's life annuities and policies where life sciences may actually kill someone if the product information isn't right, or healthcare. So it's incumbent on us to be responsible for these results. Sergio? But as McKinsey found, 70% of top performing organizations have challenges integrating data into AI models. I think that's where we mostly are today. Next slide. So we listened to you carefully. Setup takes weeks. There's lots of custom code, lots of DIY work, and that's just the start of it. You have to have the run the engine cost and risks. There's no standard tools. Every team reinvents how to pull out their data, how to integrate their data. Duplicate and siloed data. Agents read different data stores and start to hallucinate. Like, what if Chevy or Air Canada had higher quality, more consistent, more enriched, higher performance product or customer or policy data? Facts go stale. Like if, with retrieval augmented generation, you do a batch RAG export, it ages in hours. And suddenly your LLM is giving information that's old news from yesterday. That's really not good enough anymore. And then lots of security roadblocks, uh, uh, lots of security roadblocks. Hard to pass compliance because you have untrusted methods, untrusted results, untrusted data. If there is only some consistent prefactored, say, architecturally way to scale, a way to hydrate agentic AI with trusted data to unlock contextual LLM easier, so that we are confident as professional technologists in the results that we're going to be held responsible for. So, Sergio, please help us.
Thank you, Anthony, for the setup. So let me introduce this new concept, which is Model Context Protocol. I assume most of you heard about it already, either from us, either from everyone in LinkedIn talking about it. But just to simplify some concepts here, MCP, we will use that term a lot here. It's an open standard for AI cooperation. It means that it simplifies the integration between AI applications, let's say agents, assistants, chatbots, anything running an LLM, a large language model, to connect to third-party tools, APIs, sources, data. It just simplifies that connection, that integration. So basically, you basically forget about building specific API endpoints and payloads and parameters, making sure that the right parameters are input in the right order. So you just forget about that. You just plug and play. Like you just take the MCP server, you connect it to an LLM, and then magic happens. So that's the very high level description. Now, what it is actually, it is composed of three main components: tools, resources, and prompts. So an MCP server offers to an LLM a set of tools that you can basically see them as API calls. Resources are data that it offers to an LLM, and prompts are just prompts, like everyone is using prompts, that serve as examples for the LLM to use. So with these three components, the idea is that an LLM can make much better decisions with much more accurate data. There's a lot of excitement about this concept. It was developed by Anthropic, the competitor of OpenAI, for those who don't know Anthropic. It was quickly adopted by Microsoft, now by Reltio and many other vendors out there. It's open source. Anyone can implement an MCP server, and it's really exciting what you can do with it. So here's another view of those components, just to simplify what it means. And you have on the right the sources, your database, Reltio tenant, your CRM, anything. You have in the middle the MCP servers acting as interfaces, simplifying those data sources, those systems, to a client, which basically runs an LLM. A client could be Cloud Desktop in this case. ChatGPT is a client. They don't support MCP yet, but they will support it soon. Agents in general. And I have a link there. You can basically look at all the tools that are supporting MCP right now. This will grow exponentially. So these tools support MCP by default. But many organizations are building this as we speak. So what does this actually mean in the context of Reltio? That it means that we have a Reltio MCP server, a model context protocol server that basically accelerates any efforts to build agentic AI around trusted enterprise data. It's basically, as I said earlier, a plug and play connectivity. it reduces timelines. You can quickly experiment without efforts on integrations. You just focus on the AI side. You forget about the backend operations. Security is embedded by default. Like, it works with the proper authentication. It takes permissions from Reltio. So don't worry about, okay, what are the permissions? What if somebody accesses something that shouldn't be accessed? It works with permissions. So if you have permissions, you can access it. If you don't, you won't access anything. So it basically creates an exponential number of new use cases that anyone can build on top of this. So why is this so important? And we've been talking about AI-ready data for a while now. And what this AI-ready data means, it means that it is standardized, it is unified, or it has some rich attributes. There is governance on top of that data to ensure that everything is properly defined, that it complies with regulations. Low latency means that you can quickly access the data in real time. You don't need to wait. You just pull it, you get it. So all these concepts basically define this AI-ready data. And that's what Reltio always had. We always had AI-ready data. But this MCP was the missing component. Now, looking at the very high-level perspective, on the left, we see like the type of data our customers usually store in Reltio and master in Reltio. Company data, customer, supplier, product, locations. And all those entity types, let's say, are supporting these use cases on the right, from omni-channel engagement to intelligent process automation to fraud detection, consent management, all those great use cases that now can be fueled and made more efficient through copilots, agents, or assistants. Like leveraging AI to accelerate the value of these use cases. How you do that? With MCP. MCP basically connects both worlds, connects the data with the AI. Now, let's go into a quick demo to demonstrate what this means. So, Anthony, please keep me honest in case like if the screen is not shared properly. I assume that you can see my screen.
The screen looks great, and there's one question. Does MCP have direct access to Reltio data, or does it depend on the APIs?
It goes through APIs, yes.
And how do queries or bulk data, are they handled?
That may take more time to answer. Let's leave that question for the end. So this is the Claude desktop, which is similar to ChatGPT. This is from Anthropic, and Anthropic has been the company behind the MCP protocol. Now they support it natively. They are the first ones. That's why we are using them. But in the future, you can use ChatGPT or you can use any other tool supporting MCP. So you can see here, these are the tools available in the conversation. And I have here a lot of tools that basically are the ones that are exposed from the MCP server to the client, which is basically using an LLM. So I have here a previous conversation that I will not run right now because it takes a few seconds, but this is the conversation I did yesterday, actually. This was my prompt. I will read it out loud on purpose. Find an organization in Reltio with potential matches with medium confidence. Then get the potential matches for the organization, do online research to gather additional data from public sources, and make an informed decision on whether they are actual matches or not. Finally, generate a visual report to perfectly understand each pair of entities you analyze, plus the enriched data from web sources and the recommended action. Take your time. So this is prompt engineering. So you can see that the first thing it did is basically created a plan. And again, this is not Reltio. This is the LLM doing the magic. But the magic comes when the LLM realizes that, okay, based on the plan, I need to find potential matches in Reltio. So it understands that it has to execute this tool, find matches by confidence. Now, it says, okay, I asked for organizations, so it's filtering by organization entity types. And I said medium confidence. Now it's looking at confidence. The response. This is the traditional response, API response coming from Reltio. And basically, it got all the data. It's in the context of the LLM. So it said it found several organizations here. Let me select the first one. So this youth football league and get potential matches. So now the second piece of magic is where, okay, I need to get potential matches. So there is a Reltio MCP server tool available for that. So it will get the get entity matches for that entity and get the potential matches. So perfect, I found a great example for potential match. I have the source entity, which is this, and the potential match. Now let's search for public information about these entities. Now it's going and doing web search. You see the results that it got by searching this. It confirmed a few data points, tax IDs, addresses, official names from official sources. It did a second search to get more data and said, okay, perfect. Now I have all the information I need to make an informed decision. So now I will create a visual report. And here you have the report. I mean, again, the LLM did it. So it said you should merge the entities. You see the source entity, the potential match, you see both names, supported evidence from public sources. I confirmed the address is correct and they both are the same. The tax ID came from the right place. The website is correct. The NGO status is correct. The validated web sources that it used and the final recommendation. So basically, I didn't do any analysis on my own. I just asked for it and it did. Let me show another similar example, but it's actually the other way around. In this case, I am going in the past, looking at previous merge activity. It's a retrieve entity merge activity events from Reltio. Focus on merge events from organizations from the past month, only from the past month. Pick the one you consider is the most suspicious and analyze the original entities that were merged, do online research again, find more information about them, and determine whether they were properly merged or not. As usual, generate a visual report so I can understand whether, basically to understand whether I need to keep them merged or maybe I need to unmerge them. Maybe it was a wrong merge. So same approach, the LLM understands, makes a plan, and basically it realizes that it has to execute the Reltio tool to get previous activities. But this is interesting. This is the magic of LLM, MCP, and data combined. The LLM realizes that Reltio has a timestamp as to filter the events. And I said 1 month. So it said, I did it yesterday. So it said, okay, yesterday was June 3. So 1 month before that, it created a Python code to generate the timestamp and then use it. And you got the data from Reltio. And basically, okay, I found one. There's a manual merge actually made by me. Now it's getting the entity. This is another MCP server tool that the LLM realized that is available and can execute. So it got all the details from the entity. Now another tool. Now it said, okay, I need to go back in the history for this entity. What happened? What merges were done on this entity? So this is another tool that is exposed through the MCP server. And okay, now I understand. There were 3 entities that were merged into one. Let me do additional web search, similar to before. Let's create the report. So in this case, immediate action, this is suspicious merge. They say, first, this one merged into this, then into this. This is the current label for the entity. The original entity details were these. Red flags, different tax IDs, different phone numbers, beneficiaries, public records, not finding proper information about these trusts. These are trust organizations. The timeline of the merge, who did it, when it was done, recommended action, and merge. You shouldn't merge this because, hey, this looks wrong. So those are basically, this is the value. This is just one use case of something you can do, connecting the dots, connecting LLMs, AI agents, AI applications with data from Reltio through the MCP server. That's the magic. I didn't have to build any integration between that client application and Reltio. It just worked natively using the MCP server. So why is this a game changer? Everyone's talking about it as the USB-C for AI connectivity. That's the new term, how people are calling it. It just makes it simple. A lot of vendors are using it and leveraging. So Anthropic is the company who built it. And then OpenAI, the competitor, said, hey, this is great. We will use it as well. So now everyone is going after this protocol to connect the dots. Here I have some links for you to see how the community is growing. And these are mostly open source MCP servers built by everyone out there, connecting to almost any application, any system you can imagine. It's amazing how fast this is growing. So let me be a bit more technical here to explain the flow. So these are basically the components we have here: the user, the agent or the chat, the client, whatever you're using to interface, the LLM, the Reltio MCP server, and the tenant. So let's say we start with, hey, help me resolve potential matches in Reltio. That's coming from the user to is manually typing that into the client. Next step, that client or an agent will send the prompt, my prompt, plus the available tools from the Reltio MCP server to the LLM. Based on that context, the LLM will say, okay, based on the prompt, we need to execute the tool get potential matches from the Reltio MCP server. So that goes back to the client that basically executes the tool in the MCP server. In the backend, the MCP server is calling the Reltio API, is getting the JSON result, and pushing the result back to the client. Finally, the client now has the prompt, the tools, the result from Reltio, and sends it back to the LLM. Please process everything and give me a natural language summary and guidance. And then response back to the user. So for you as a user, you only care about the left side. You just type something and you get a response. That's it. Everything else is transparent. If you are a developer, someone building agents or AI applications, you care about the chat agent or client right there and the LLM. That's it. Because Reltio MCP server is a given. You can just connect to it. And this is very important because there is some confusion on these concepts. The Reltio MCP server doesn't connect to any LLM. The MCP server only gets instructions from the client to execute a tool and connects to Reltio tenant and passes the data back. It's a translation layer, an abstraction layer that simplifies the connection between a client and the data in Reltio. The client is the one sending data to the LLM. So that means that in this context, if you're building an agent, if you're building your own application, AI application, you decide which LLM to use. Reltio will not tell you you should use Anthropic, you should use OpenAI, Gemini. For us, it's the same. The Reltio MCP server doesn't connect to any LLM. It just passes data. I mean, it does a lot of processing, right? But it just passes the data back to the client, and then the client decides what to send to the LLM. So I think it's a very important clarification because I want to reemphasize once more. The Reltio MCP server doesn't connect to an LLM. It's the client that you have on your end that sends the data to the LLM. So any LLM you have approved in your company can be used with the MCP server. So important topic, security here. We implemented OAuth natively, so there are different ways of authentication through the MCP server, either client credentials, browser-based, which is, let's say you are building a browser-based application, and then you connect in the backend to the MCP server, you will use SSO or client credentials. I think I said that already. So it's using a standard OAuth 2.0 mechanisms to authenticate, and it's leveraging the Reltio permissions. So you will not find any kind of privilege escalation scenarios where a user is executing something through the LLM and suddenly gets access to more data. No, that doesn't happen, because the LLM only has access to the data that you provide as context, and it will provide as context only the data that you have access to. If you have access to the data, then the LLM can see that. So it's very, it respects the model from Reltio. So right now, these are the available tools in the current version of the MCP. There may be one more or two that we released recently, but you can basically get entities, relations, search. There is a lot of match, merge, unmerge type of tools. The main decision behind this was that everyone was asking for help in resolving potential matches. So say, okay, let's build these tools first. But we have requests for more tools and across the board, DCRs, stuff like that. We will build them constantly. And here you have the link for the open source repo. So the important piece here is that we have two versions of this, two editions. The developer edition that we released in May, we made an announcement last month, and this is already available. And the link I showed in the previous slide is what will give you access to it. It's just code, Python code that will download and run. But we are working on the enterprise edition that will be released later this month, which is a paid subscription, right? It is not free. But I would say the main difference, you can see it here, is that the goal of the enterprise edition is that you should use that for production use cases. If you want to experiment, if you want to prototype, build, test some use cases, and play with it, then you just go ahead with the developer edition. You can use that. You can run it anywhere. You can host it in your laptop, and the server can be there, and it will work. But now, if you are working on a production use case where you have much higher volume of people sending prompts and working with it every day, then you need auto-scale, SLAs, support, monitoring. If there are patches to be made. So basically, the enterprise edition is the managed service version of the MCP server, the one we recommend for production use cases. For everything else, you can use the developer edition. I won't dive deep on this because I have another demo, but basically these are the minimum set of steps you need to run the MCP server. You basically clone the repo, the public repo, then you add credentials, basically the client ID and secret and the tenant ID, and then you run the setup script. Either on Windows or Mac, you just run the setup, and then you open Cloud Desktop, which is for free. You can use it for free. There you go. Then you can, really in 5 minutes, you get up and running, and you can start playing with a few use cases. The second thing that you should be aware is that for the open source version, you can extend it yourself. We are working weekly and releasing new tools, new areas of the Reltio platform that we want to expose to LLMs through the MCP server. And we are aiming for parity in terms of tools in both developer edition and enterprise version. But if you want to experiment tomorrow with something that we haven't published yet in the developer edition, you can build it yourself. And here are the steps. You come on the repo, you create a new file, and then there's some minimum steps you need to do to create a new tool. So you will see it's pretty simple to create new tools for the developer edition, right? For the enterprise edition, we have a lot of additional considerations as that's for production ready use cases. So let me show it to you. So this is the repo. This is public. And here, the most important thing is the README file that contains the tools available today, how to configure it, the requirements to run it, and there are different ways of running it. We explain everything, how to use Claude basically to interact with it. You don't need to use Claude. Maybe in your company you use OpenAI. We have here some custom clients. You have the MCP OpenAI client. It's a script. You will run it, and it will create a chat interface. You just interact with it as in my previous demo, but with OpenAI instead. But there are multiple other clients out there. If you go to the official website, all these are clients that you can use today to interact with MCP servers. So how to run it? So basically, this is the repo. And I just done it before. And I showed earlier let me make this bigger. So this is the configuration file you need to modify. You basically need the environment, whether it's a development tenant, test, production, the tenant ID, the client ID. Basically, you get it from the console, and the secret. The most important thing here is the permissions. Here, if you want to start safely, maybe you can create a client ID with read-only permissions on the tenant. So then no accident will happen because there is no chance to go beyond the permissions. So once you do those steps, you just do, in this case, this is a Mac, bash setup.sh. It runs a few things. Now server is running, then restart Claude. Go to the Claude application, and now it's ready to use, and you will see the tools listed in this section. So that means the server is running and it's ready to use. You just say hi, and then you start playing with it. Now, let's say you want to add a new tool. I would recommend, no one is coding anymore. Everyone is vibe coding right now. So I will show it to you with Cursor AI. This is the IDE where I have the same code. Here, the MCP Server Developer Edition is here. And this is the README file, everything the same you see in the public source. And here we have the tools, everything, the API connect. You will see the API connections, the authentication, everything. But as everyone is vibe coding, this is what I did earlier today. I said, I want to create a new tool called Create Entities. So the Create Entities tool is not available right now in the MCP server, in the open source version. We will release it soon, but let's say you want to use it today. Let's say you want to create entities, follow the Reltio documentation, and add it to the MCP server. And what I did was, I came to the Reltio documentation. I just copied the entire documentation. I pasted it into the prompt. You see everything here. And said, run, go ahead, build it. And you can see how in this case, the LLM in Cursor AI is processing my request, understanding the code, understanding the different places where I need to touch. And finally, it basically created the corresponding files. You can see here how it modified the entities file that has all the tools for entities. And we see at the bottom, the new tool, Create Entities. it did automatically. It took the Reltio documentation and basically created a new function here with examples on how to use it. This is relevant for LLM. The API call, it's there, here, the post request, and that's it. Then you just accept the changes, and then you basically run this again. And then that's it. After that, you go into Claude, and you will see the Create Entities tool here, listed, ready to use. So then you can say, I want to create a new individual named John, and then it will find the new tool called Create Entity and execute it. It may need more information because this is a very poor prompt, right? Maybe this fails right now. I don't know. So look, it identified the new tool. It realized that it has to use the Create Entities tool, which is new. It's asking me for permissions. The first time it always asks for permissions. So now it's going ahead, and you see everything, like the payload that is sending to the MCP server, which is basically creating the, okay, it did, look. It created the entity. Now let's go to the tenant. Let's go to the tenant. Here, John. So I created an entity from the LLM, from the AI agent, and I didn't build any code here. I didn't create any code here myself. I just asked another LLM in Cursor to create the code for it, to create the new tool. So let's go back to the presentation. And something I wanted to share as well, this is exciting news for us. This is not only Reltio using this and customers, we have partners building agents already. ZS, one of our partners, has started a new agent for pharmaceutical companies, specifically to address potential matches. Basically, they enrich with specific sources for pharma. They have special treatment with those entities, that with HCOs, HCPs specifically, and basically are building the new agent that connects to the MCP server to pull real-time data, trusted data from Reltio. So ZS is not the only one. We have many more partners doing this. We wanted to showcase one. So stay tuned and connect to your partners as well to get more insights and ideas on, or you can also push for new ideas on what they are doing. So please go ahead, download the repo, the public repo, check the README and run it. You can start playing with it today. You don't need to go to the production tenant, just pick a sandbox tenant, development tenant from Reltio with fake data, and you can do it today. It's very, very easy. If you have questions, we are also welcoming any demos, any interesting use cases that people are building, post in the community. We are happy to see them and promote them. If you need tools, email me. I am the PM behind all of this, so I have big backlog by prioritizing all of them. But we plan to release them very frequently. And stay tuned, because we will release the Enterprise Edition very soon, which will be meant for production-ready use cases. Anthony, I don't know if you have any closing remarks.
Oh, just very excited about we have tons of questions, so we're going to have to divert everybody to the community, I think. But you did a great job, Sergio. Fantastic. Maybe you can piece through some of these. Shrikant was asking about, could you show how to config Claude LLM? I think there were some documentation references that's probably best way to go for that one. Okay, so there is actually no configuration for Claude LLM. Sorry. Basically, sorry. Here I am. Basically, you just, no, sorry, there's no configuration. Just open it, you create an account. That's it. You create the account. The only configuration is on the MCP server side. Here where we have a Reltio account, but by default you have a free account
The only issue with the free account is that you basically have a limited number of messages you can send, as ChatGPT is similar, but you just open it and then you run the script to set up the server, and that's it. There's no additional configuration needed. Anyway, you should look at the README here that contains all instructions. But again, there's no configuration included.
Sajid was asking about if the MCP feature subscription based on or general availability to leverage. I think that you mentioned the Enterprise Edition is coming up soon. I think that might answer the question.
Yes, coming up soon, most likely end of this month. Paid subscription with I don't have anything to share in terms of pricing model, but yeah, connect with your partner or your account manager to see that. Anyway, you can get started today with the developer edition.
Then Balaji had his hand up. Did you? Sorry, Balaji, did you want to ask a
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, I do. Hey, Sergio and team, thank you. It's awesome advancement. We are all excited to hear these advancements. One question, at least based on my understanding, while we can do today from externally using Claude and other things, it was my understanding that this will be natively enabled in Reltio itself. So if I have to do some of the open search and other things to perform these tasks, I can do natively within Reltio itself as long as we have the necessary subscription. Is that the right understanding still?
Yeah, so right now for the current release we are talking about, which is coming in a few weeks, that's only the service that you can use from any client, any third-party client, let's say. Now, that third-party client could be ChatGPT, Gemini, could be an agent. Now, Reltio is working on a native application as well. I cannot say more than that publicly, but we're working on that as well, which will come immediately after. So, but yeah, if you want to discuss more, we can do that, and we have more things to share privately.
Yeah, we'll discuss offline. Sergio, thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you, Balaji. Ashish had asked if they could build your own custom tools. I think you answered. The answer was yes on that one.
Yes, you can build your custom tools. You can create tools. Then you can do additional data processing if you want in the tool itself, and then send it back to the client. I wouldn't recommend connecting to another application beyond Reltio because it will confuse the LLM. If you, let's say, because we saw scenarios where you want to connect to Reltio and Salesforce and then do things let the agent decide what to do in each system, combine data. So you will need two MCP servers for that. I wouldn't recommend having one, so you should have another one in that case.
Absolutely. I've heard from customers about multiple MCP servers, one per application, scaling architecturally that way.
Exactly.
Okay. Dayakar has lots of questions here. Maybe we could pick out a couple. How does MCP identify what tools to call based on the prompt? It's an underlying
so
MCP question.
so that's actually the magic of the LLMs, plus a well-developed MCP server. The idea is that a well-developed MCP server has tools, but it has a lot of documentation in the code itself, teaching the LLM when and how to use each tool. So the LLM, when it has the list of tools to decide which one to use, it understands from the documentation that it has in the code itself which one has to use. I mean, it can fail, of course, right? But the based on our testing, the likelihood of the LLM picking the wrong tool is very, very low.
And Dayakar, I watch lots of content on YouTube to serve, Google MCP server. There's lots of great Anthropic content.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we have here. What's the timeline for bringing more tools APIs to the Reltio MCP server? For example, if we fetch some record with particular attributes, LLM has to fetch one by one. Imagine if you have 40 million records. Great question.
Yeah, so we are releasing new tools weekly. We are starting with the basic ones. But if you have specific tools, please share the requirement. We are putting an army of people already working on this. So we are heavily investing on this, and we are moving fast. I would say the general sense is urgency, and we will move fast. So share details on what tools you need. You can email me or talk to your account managers or CSMs, and we can go from there.
Vinoth has the question of the decade. Is it fair to assume the prompts need to be clear to get proper results, or are there any default templates available?
Good question. So in the current version of the MCP server, we don't have prompts. We can add a few just to give you some examples. But my recommendation, and now just beyond Reltio in general with LLMs, you need to play with it. You need to understand how LLMs operate, because it's not the same working with Gemini than OpenAI, for example. The LLMs behave differently. For example, Gemini prioritizes speed over accuracy based on some testing I've done. So if you have use cases where you need large contexts and very quick results, I would recommend speed. Sorry, Gemini. Now, if you are working on something that requires heavy reasoning, a smaller context, I would recommend OpenAI or Anthropic. It depends on the use case, and again, that will imply a different type of prompt. So the short answer is you have to experiment.
Avinash asks, can this work with Copilot?
Copilot, I don't know if Copilot has an integration with MCP. You will need to check. We can check where there is an MCP client, because basically for the server you need a client. So I know Microsoft announced supporting MCP. So if not now, they should support it soon.
Akshita asks, is there any POV on match performance and accuracy comparison across LLMs?
Not yet. Good question. I don't have that yet, but it's an interesting point. We'll take that note to basically run some experiments comparing LLMs. But based on what we see across customers and partners, even if we can recommend specific LLMs, but at this point, customers already decided which LLM to use for data. So even if we recommend Anthropic for something, either they're using Gemini, they will use Gemini. Majority already have one LLM approved.
Here's an easy one, I think. Where will Enterprise Edition be hosted?
Good question. So immediately it will be AWS, and then we'll go into GCP and Azure as well. But as usual, it will be a Reltio managed service. It will be hosted in Reltio accounts.
Okay. Sajid, I think your question was answered. If there's a way to try it out on a proof of concept, is it subscription based? I think I heard that no, you can just, there's those links you could just go to right away and start using today. This one about APIs was answered. This are there any limitations with the developer edition when using specific clients? Like with Claude always getting very few responses and hitting roadblocks and getting responses for subsequent calls.
Yeah, I would recommend having to use another client. Like if you want to go beyond that, most likely one of the clients we are pushing in the open source version, let's say you use OpenAI or Gemini, you can simply run that Python code with the API key, and then it will not stop. It will just let you run forever. But you basically pay for API usage on the LLM model. So yeah.
Is there any case of hallucination that can happen when working with MCP server and there's a framework that's baked in to avoid it?
So the MCP server is what makes the LLM hallucinate less. That's the main one of the key values. LLMs by themselves may hallucinate. I mean, new versions, new models hallucinate less and less. So we are much safer now than 1 year ago. But the advantage of the MCP server is that it will pull data and will respect it. So the LLM will respect the data coming from the LLM, especially if you're using one of the latest models. If you are using GPT-3, no, it will still hallucinate. But the GPT-4, the Gemini 2.5, the Claude 3.7 or 4.0, those with MCP server, I haven't seen any case of hallucination so far.
I think those are all the questions. If anyone doesn't, did I miss any? If anyone wants to come off and because it looks like some were answered here by other Reltians. So did I miss any?
I'm just going through it with you.
I think we may have done it.
Yeah, we have 9 minutes, so if you have any additional questions, you can speak. Post it here.
And, please take a look at the documentation. Please watch some videos. Please engage on the community and reach out to Sergio, myself, or anyone else at Reltio. We're all very excited to help, especially if you have new use cases coming up. How can we help? How can we make your life better? How can we put you in a position where you really feel good about being responsible for the trusted results that you're providing inside your business or even for external LLM use cases? Swami asked, do you have a plan to integrate MCP with RIH?
So if I understand the question correctly, what you're saying is from an LLM calling an RIH recipe, it can be done for sure. There are plans to integrate it, yes. Where it is in the list, it depends at this point. It depends on whether, hey, I want to build a use case tomorrow, and then call me, and then we can. But at this point, we're moving so fast that the more people who ask for it, the more priority it will come.
You can also use the ideation portal in community if there's like questions like that where you have or requests like that where you have them. I would recommend using that portal to request those things because then you can upvote on them and then I would send them over to our team to let them know. So
Enoch is asking about if MCP can be used to call third-party APIs and update profiles in Reltio. I think that should probably be orchestrated from the MCP client side. Is that right, Sergio, or do I have that wrong?
Yeah, so the MCP server will only call the Reltio MCP server will only call Reltio APIs. So it will update profiles in Reltio, yes, but I don't know what you mean with third-party call APIs. Third-party APIs. So you would need if you need to call an API from a third-party application that is not Reltio, you will need another MCP server for that application.
It's great because that scales really well. Like if you're pulling out a Marketo or Salesforce or whatever and want to orchestrate contacts in that way, synchronize them. Yes, please have multiple MCP servers for thoughtful architecture and scalability.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, yes, you can, for example. Oh, okay. Yes. Actually, we are building because we have Reltio APIs for that. So we are building those into tools as well. If you want to call directly a third-party application that is not going through Reltio, I still recommend a separate MCP server, just for proper architecture. You can still do it. You can still do it in the same server, but not recommended.
Sarah, I think we did it.
I think we did. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you joining. And please keep your eyes open. We do have another community show coming up in only 2 weeks. And we hope you'll be able to join us then as well. And yeah, have a great rest of your week, everyone. The recording will be up as soon as possible within the next 2 days.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.